Hi, I'm Tom, and I've never seen the Titanic, but I have seen The Room at least 3 times.
And I'm Sean, and I think Forrest Gump is fine. There, I said it.
And this is Flix and Flops, the podcast where we watch movies, talk nonsense.
And pretend to know what we're doing.
Grab your snacks, lower your expectations, and let's ruin some cinema together.
Because nothing says film analysis like two friends arguing over whether Nicolas Cage is a genius or just bored.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of Flicks and Flops. Sean and I actually went to the movie theaters again for the first time in like forever.
Yeah, probably like 3 or 4 episodes. Unprecedented,
I
really.
don't know, I was gonna say usually I'm a big fan of the movie theaters too, so it's super weird that that we weren't pushing for it. But we went and we saw another God, what was another Stephen King movie, and we
Yes,
saw
another Stephen King
we saw
movie.
the new remake of the original '80s movie of The Running Man. And I'll let you have the first go at this, Sean. Actually,
Well, it's interesting because well, for one thing, Stephen King is, I mean, other than having every movie take place in Maine, every book take place in Maine, he occasionally will recycle similar concepts. And so it's really funny to me that these two movies came out at the same time because in a lot of ways it's the same core concept of you take these people who are like um, suffering under a dystopian regime, and you are putting them in a gladiatorial kind of scenario where only one person can remain standing, and they can win whatever money they have or whatever. But at the end of the day, um, that money will not fix the corrupt system, is the idea. But it's very interesting because The Long Walk takes a very philosophical and subtle approach to it in ways, whereas The Running Man could not be a more bombastic, heavy-handed version of the same thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like parts of both movies, but like from a tonal standpoint, straight off the bat, this movie was so jarring compared to The Long Walk. I'll say that right off the bat.
I mean, honestly, it's one of those things that I've been thinking a lot about since we saw it. That I'm like, it's almost total polar opposites in the sense that they assume you have some sort of media literacy when it comes to The Long Walk, and you can understand the themes they're
Hmm.
going for. And then it goes completely out the window in The Running Man, where they're like, we're just gonna point blank tell you everything, and we're not gonna leave anything to your imagination. Like, I think overall the action scenes are really good. I mean, it's an Edgar Wright directed movie, so he's known for having those great action sequences to keep the movie flowing. But after leaving the theater and thinking on it more, I was like, if you don't shut your brain off and you think for 2 seconds about this movie, it's not really that good. Like, it's entertaining,
Hmm.
but it is very similar in terms of themes to The Long Walk. But I don't know. I mean, the whole idea, Glenn Powell, I think I'm kind of just bored of him, and I'm over that whole like he's
Yeah.
too milk toast and he's too, I guess I want to say, bland, right? Like he's not the kind of every I get what they're trying to do. It's like he's generic enough that he can be the every kind of person any person can kind of like imagine themselves being him in that situation.
Hmm.
But for me that doesn't make him a compelling character. So him as Ben Richards was okay. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I wish had been done differently in terms of the movie. I think one thing that really stood out to me though was actually Coleman Domingo as Bobby Thornton, so the host of The Running Man, was stellar.
Yeah.
He had this whole great persona of hyping everyone up. The audience loved it, and he's like explaining the rules, going over everything, and he was a phenomenal host of being able to pull from the absolute depths of sadness in moments, but also
Hmm.
keep the audience super entertained and hype up everybody and hype up all the kills. I mean, it's an interesting concept for the movie. Going over we'll go over the basics of it is essentially generic enough plot that Ben Richards has a kid who's sick and he needs medicine for the kid, but he doesn't have a lot of money. So he signs up for going on these different shows on cable TV or whatever they have in this kind of alternate future scenario. So they're all shows where he can get hurt. He signs up for them. He's like, I can win some money for the kid. He does these auditions, and he ends up going on The Running Man, which is you're hunted for 30 days, and if you live, you get like a shitload of money, like the most money you've ever heard of in your life.
1 billion new dollars, whatever the fuck that
New
means.
money is my. I hate it. That's lazy. They couldn't come up with
That's
anything.
like, yeah, that's some like bat credit card shit. Like what are we doing here? Also, I
I
gotta
never
say,
leave home without the
on
back credit card.
I gotta say, on a core level, we haven't even talked about the way that this movie handled advertising and consumerism yet, and believe me, we will. But I'd like to say I think you kind of leaned into it, Tom, because you got the Patriots hat going, you got the Star Wars shirt going. I don't know, man. I think Dan Killian got to you, dude. I don't know,
Just buy
but anyway,
buy product, consume, and don't ask questions.
yeah,
But like
don't.
the movie, the concept is interesting, right? That it's like you're being
Hmm.
hunted. You have to survive for 30 days. Every day you get more money until you get a bajillion new dollars. But there are people out there that will hunt you called the hunters, creative. But if you kill them, you get money. But also everyday citizens can report you for money too. So it's kind of an interesting concept that like the whole world is out to get you. Like everyone that you meet, you don't know who to trust. So I
Yeah,
think that idea was kind of cool, but it almost like a lot of it doesn't really work because they go over it in the movie that there's essentially three different types of people who sign up for the Running Man.
yeah, the stereotypes or whatever.
And
Yeah,
it started to dawn on me. I was just thinking about it this morning that I'm like, if there's typically the three stereotypes, right? It's like the guy who thinks it's just a game show, and he's always like, "Have you seen this guy on the Running Man who's hot and looks like me?" And then you have the party person who just wants to go out in a blaze of glory, and then you have like the ultra badass.
yeah.
Wouldn't people catch on to that by like 2 or 3 seasons and be like, "This is just redundant and I'm bored"?
Well, I think the idea is that they're so this is where the whole consumerism hyper capitalist thing comes into it because I guess the idea is that okay, um we're putting them in such a level of poverty, such a level of desperation that I mean almost in the same sense that this movie doesn't have the same kind of media literacy appeal as per se the Long Walk does, right? The idea is that okay, like we're just gonna dumb down the masses enough to where these trashy, violent, reality TV shows, which like I mean, there's crazy game shows nowadays, there's crazy reality TV, whatnot, but I mean this puts that to like an extreme limit. But yeah, no, I mean it's and um they show you the counterculture movement and like the people who figure it out. And don't get me wrong, like I can buy into a lot of people being dumbed down. I mean, even in a much more grounded reality we live in right now, you see people that eat that stuff up. But I will say, yeah, that thought had occurred to me a bunch too, especially in regards to like, well, see, that's what makes it interesting the more you go on in the movie because I got so annoyed that what the fuck was her name? Like Jenny or whatever, whoever the party girl was who ends up getting like torched by the two little kids with the flamethrowers, which
And then the kids
two
are brought
and
onto the game show.
they're brought onto the game show and of course they're ginger. Um but like so I don't it's just hard to believe that people are that dumb in this country. But then you realize I think as the movie goes on it's like holy shit like the network. They just call the organization. It's just called the network. Um, they have complete and utter control of everything. Like if they want people to die, they die. If they want people to live, they live. And that's what makes you, and that kind of ends up kind of satiating my thought process and like how is this girl alive? But at the same time, it's like really you're telling me like the majority of people are this dumb. I don't know. I not to harp on it like too much, but you bringing that up really made that bothered me. I think for a good chunk of the
I
movie.
mean, I
So
feel like the majority of people are stupid simply because and we you just kind of touched upon it a little bit. There are legitimate ads in this movie. And I think
Mhm.
this is bound to be what the future of cinema is, which is the most depressing thought that I've had since leaving this theater. Is there's a
God.
scene where Glenn Powell's getting ready to go on the show, right? He's getting ready for the Running Man. And for absolutely no reason whatsoever, they pan over to the TV and there's an ad for Liquid Death, that water in a can kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it's like the host of the show is talking about how great Liquid Death is, and I'm like, I couldn't determine if it was supposed to be like ultra meta of like, wow, we just all byproduct consume, like that kind of thing. But it felt like there was just a legitimate ad. They're like, wow, Liquid Death is so good, and I'm like, that like usually when they have these kind of like product placements and stuff in movies, they try and do it as subtle as they can, where it's like the can is facing with the label out, or like if they're showing a car, they always show like the brand of the car and it's always pristine, that kind of thing.
Mhm. Yep.
This was just a direct ad, and then later on in the movie, they had a second one with Michael Cera's character where they're sitting talking, formulating a plan, and he just has Monster with him and he's drinking it and he goes, "Would you like some Monster?" And I'm like, the more I think about it, I'm like, why are we at this point where we're just, is this it? Like, is Edgar Wright moving into the ultra like horrible parts of movies now? That's just gonna be like, we're gonna have ads in our direct ads in our movies. Like, if you don't look at the screen, there's an ad or something. Like, I don't know. It was that really took me out of the entire movie, and
Yeah.
it's like I just couldn't really get behind a lot of the stuff that was going on. Like, some of the concepts were really cool, but then it's classic Edgar Wright issues where it's like you think about it for more than 2 seconds and the movie's not good. And you're like, oh, okay, besides the action sequences to keep this moving forward, is this movie really good? Like, Shaun of the Dead, great movie. That's a fantastic movie, and the humor in it is really well done. But then you have something like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which he also did.
Okay, no, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. Okay, that movie is beast. Okay,
I
that
cannot get behind that movie except the music is good. Garbage Truck is a great song, but outside of that, it's like I just can't wrap my head around the movie. But like, I don't know. I just have an issue with this movie almost as a whole because it's like it introduces cool concepts and then just kind of does away with them. And
yeah,
especially,
for
there's a whole thing where at one point, Ben Richards is doing recording because every day you have to film yourself for what, like 10 minutes or something, and you have to
yeah,
submit
10
it in a
minute. Yeah.
Dropbox. So it's like
Yeah,
otherwise,
dude, give
yeah,
us the vlog.
yeah,
Yeah, give me the vlog in the mail,
yeah.
dude.
It's
Like,
like it literally is just like a
which
podcast.
which is also like why aren't we uploading this to some like network or something? Why are you filming the tape and then putting it in
Yeah,
the oh
everything is
god,
so
whatever.
futuristic, but I think it's also to make more to have it be more dangerous. Of like you have to physically go out somewhere and put it in a mailbox,
Oh,
so
true,
it's like a
true.
higher chance of you getting caught. Because like who's they're probably like who's using mailboxes anyway. But like they, he has this whole scene where he does this recording and he's talking about how the higher ups and like the corporations and stuff are trying to rule over the masses and we all need to fight back and everything.
Mhm.
And then they show it on the show, but the company that runs the Running Man had edited the whole thing. So he had just blown up this building by accident trying to get out, and they had it changed over so he was like, I loved killing all of these corpo pigs and I can't wait to like kill their family and all these weird things.
I know the deep fakes are insane in this movie. Like, I
But
mean, if we already weren't like creeped out by the idea of those getting better, like this movie's like, oh, well, we're not afraid to remind you of it.
but that's the thing. That's another time they introduce a really cool concept of being like, wow, be careful what you say because the network is just going to edit it. It doesn't matter. Truth isn't real.
Mhm.
And then near the end of the movie, they have this whole thing, this like whole spiel where it's like, "Oh, Ben Richards, you've won the Running Man. Would you like to say anything?" And he's like, "Yeah, first of all, the Running Man is on something called like Freebie or something like that."
Freebie, yeah, they call it. Yeah, they the idea is that they just make all TV like free as a way to like placate them or whatever, but there's still plenty of ways to squeeze advertising money out of them. Like,
He's like,
okay.
yeah. What I would like to say is, don't watch freebie, pay for it, and you know, stand up against the corporation. And it goes on for probably what felt like 2 minutes, and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden, Dan Killian, so Josh Brolin, who was actually pretty good in this, he's like
he was fucking awesome in
he was the
this.
evil like CEO guy. He shows up, his screen pops up, and he's like, hey Ben, we cut you off like at the very beginning of your speech." And he and it's like, so did he forget that they could just change the whole speech? So I'm like,
Yeah, oh, you're talking about when he does that in the plane?
yeah.
Yeah, dude, did you really think you were gonna be able to get away with it? I mean, maybe at that point he just didn't give a fuck, but yeah, no, I'm glad you pointed that out because 'cause I'm like, dude, like, you literally have watched, like, your, diatribes to the people be edited and turned into absolute slop. Like, what makes you think this time you think, "Oh, okay," because maybe his thought process was like, "Okay, yeah, I just killed like 4 or 5 dudes, like, maybe they'll actually let me talk about it," you
I
know?
mean, some of the stuff is cool when he's kind of like gaming the system almost. There's a great sequence near the later end of the movie, like back end of the movie. He's kind of kidnapped another person, like an innocent civilian, to go on the road with him. And they have these cameras following him, and she's freaking out, and he's like, don't worry, like they go up to a blockade. And she's like, they're gonna kill us, they're gonna kill us. He's like, don't worry, the show hasn't started yet, so they won't do it. Like,
Mhm.
that was cool. I think one thing I just don't understand about this movie was the random cameos. John C. Riley's in this movie for like,
Wait, what?
yeah.
When?
Or not, who is it? Shameless. Who's the guy from Shameless?
Oh, William H.
Yeah, we called
Macy.
him
Yeah,
John C.
yeah, yeah,
Riley,
yeah.
so but William H. Macy is in this movie for all of like not even 5 minutes.
Yeah, like, barely
And
that.
it felt like such a waste to have him in this movie because he's such a talented actor. He could have done more and
Mhm.
they could have fleshed out his character. And it's like the one part that really bothered me about his character is he plays this kind of like, I guess, black market dealer kind of person. So Ben
Yeah.
Richards goes to him. They must have been close. He goes to him when he's first on the Running Man. He's like, hey, man, I need guns. I need to get away. I need to disguise.
Mhm.
And then immediately, William H. Macy's like, oh, you know what? You wouldn't have needed to go on the Running Man for money because I was going to offer you to be a partner in my company.
Oh, dude, that pissed me off so
And he's
bad.
like, I was going to do
Like,
it tomorrow. And I'm like,
I just needed to tell you in person, like I told your wife, and it like,
and
oh my
also,
god,
plot
dude,
hole,
like
he
fuck
told his
you.
wife the major plot hole
So
that I
why
didn't
didn't the wife?
realize. He,
Yeah, well, I mean, he said he did. I
yeah.
forgot. I'm like 95% sure he said, "Oh, I told your wife, and I told her to wait to tell you in person." Yada yada. Like fucking a man. If she's so worried about him going onto the show or whatever, like just fucking tell him that he has this job offer. Unless, like, I don't know, unless like William H Macy's character was like, "I'll fucking kill
Yeah.
you if you tell him."
But then why would
Like
he
what the
do that?
bro. And also, like, another thing with this is, okay, when Edgar Wright does the weird cuts, does like the really quirky stuff, when it works, it fucking works for me, man. Like, some of my favorite movies from him are, well, clearly we disagree on Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, but that's fine. But like, Baby Driver, I think is his magnum opus, in my opinion. I think that's the best movie he's ever done. I mean, obviously Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and like World's End are they're all great. But I mean, to me, I almost view those as like a different kind of movie in general. Like those are his comedy movies per se. Not all his movies have a bit of comedy, but regardless, Scott Pilgrim, Ant Man, Baby Driver, um, Running Man, they're all kind of in a different category, right? As far as that. So when he kind of makes these weird, quirky editing decisions, kind of, and Zack Snyder's been known to do the same thing. When it works, it really works. But where it didn't work for me is they use a lot of dream sequences that also seem to kind of like also parallel reality. So like with William H. Macy's character, it seems like he gets tortured by the hunters for like the location and like all this shit. But when we see that, but like he wakes up and Glenn Powell's character wakes up and eh, we don't know if that's like his "That's So Raven" prediction of it, or like if that actually happened, or if it's somewhere in between. And that happens like a few times in the movie, and every time it did, it threw me out of the immersion like big time. It pissed me off. I'll be real.
It's okay to
So.
have like a few of those in a movie, maybe like once. I think when we left the theater, we referenced a big one for me is Lord of the Rings, right? So in
Hmm.
the original Lord of the Rings, right? They're having that whole scene where they're at the Prancing Pony, and they have the Nazgul coming in, and the Nazgul think that they have found all the people, right? They think they found all the hobbits, everybody, and they're sleeping, and they're doing a whole thing where they're raising their swords above the beds, and then they stab them down, and then all of a sudden Sam wakes up and he's like, "Oh!" And you think that he just got stabbed, but it's like a whole fake out to be like,
Hmm.
"Oh no!" They hear the Nazgul screaming. They thought ahead of this. It's okay. They tricked the Nazgul. That kind of thing. That works. The way this movie did it did not work at all, which was having all the hunters show up. So Ben Richards has this thing where he like disguises himself as a priest. He stays in a hotel, and he's just hiding in the hotel for a few days to start the Running Man.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's a couple of hunters, I think like five or whatever.
I think it's 5, yeah. Oh no, there is 5 because Dan Killian's deal
Right,
to
yeah.
Ben is Ben Richards is
Hunter
Hunter
six.
6. Like, bro, like
Which
really creative dude. I'm glad the network had their finest minds on that one. Like,
and we're
oh
gonna
my
touch on that because
god.
it's another issue I have with this movie. But like
Okay.
they have this whole sequence where the hunters are all like dressed up like their hotel staff and they're quietly going like up through the floors of the hotel and they're being followed with the camera and
Mhm.
they're like, the hunters have found their prey. They're about to take down Richards. And then they quietly sneak into the hotel room and then they put a gun to his head and then they pull the trigger and he wakes up and there's nobody there. And I'm like, what? Like, it wasn't even like oh, I tricked you guys. You were in the wrong hotel room. Like, they legitimately had a gun to his head. And then he wakes up. So it must have been like, like you're saying, a That's So Raven kind of vision. It, it
I
felt like
mean,
that.
what else do you call that,
Is it
man?
like,
I
it's
was
like
like, what
premonition.
the fuck? Yeah, I'm like, what the
And that really
fuck?
took me out of it because I'm like, okay, so now can he see the future? Like, what is this movie? And then he's like, I can't stay here. And he like gets up and he goes to another location, which was this really bothered me in the theater. There's maybe like five other people in the theater with us. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
As Ben Richards is trying to get away, he gets in contact with some people that help him out. And he's like, hey
Mhm.
man, I know this guy. You can trust him with your life. And he hands over the card, and it's almost like a Nick Fury MCU moment where he hands the card over to him and he's like, he lives in Derry. And everyone, they'll have it like five people in the theater went, woo, Derry. Like, because Stephen King cannot think of anything almost outside of Maine. Everything is like Maine adjacent. So I was like,
Yeah.
really? Yeah, of course we're gonna have Derry. We're getting a whole
And why is it always dairy?
because he well
Oh, I
he
mean, I
yeah
know,
he
I
lived in
know, I mean,
Derry.
I know Derry. I mean, Derry. Well, Derry's technically, I think, a fake town. They basically just say, Derry is a
Yeah,
stand-in for Bangor.
yeah, because
As
he
far
grew
as
up in
that,
Maine, so he knows that whole like northern Maine. It's all weird and there's nothing up there. But like,
yeah.
if we're really getting like this whole cinematic universe of Stephen King movies before we're getting Grand Theft Auto 6, and that's just weird to me. But like, truly, this whole thing, like, he finally gets there, and the whole thing is just so out of out of left field because eventually there's another dream sequence he has where you have Michael Cera's character who is like a resistance kind of person, I guess, which
Yeah.
felt very out of pocket to this whole thing.
Well, did you see? I know it does seem out of pocket, but did you see? What do you call it? The last. What's
The
his
Last
name?
Samurai.
No, he was in the Phoenician Scheme. Wes Anderson. He was
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
last Wes Anderson movie. And he played a similarly quirky, like, kind of nerdy but secretly badass
Yeah,
character.
he was the
I
spy. We
know it's
saw the movie together.
Oh yeah, we did. Wait, we saw Phoenician Scheme together. I thought I saw it with Alex.
I
Oh
was
my
there with
god,
you. It was the
whatever.
three of us.
Oh yeah, it was the three of us. Oh my god, wait, that's awesome. Holy shit. Anyways, yeah, I'm a piece of shit, and Tommy. Honestly, if you haven't noticed at this point that I have a black eye, that's from Tommy taking me out back and beating me up like Old Yeller.
I don't
Just so
think they
you
beat
know.
up Old
So
Yeller. I think they just shot Old Yeller.
no, no. In the uncut scene where Robert De Niro starred as Old Yeller, they took him out back and they punched him and then they shot him. Okay.
Do you want to hear my Robert De Niro impression?
Yes.
It's me, Robert De Niro.
Okay, back to the Running Man. So I don't even know where we were, but
We've gotten so off the rails. We were talking about
yeah.
that dream sequence
Oh
and Michael
yeah,
Cera
yeah.
too. Michael Cera's character where he's that just like weird resistance person. That
And his mom who like thinks like Glenn Powell's the devil,
yeah.
which it well, dude, the that's another thing I'm just realizing now that I think about it. You have two different perspectives of a mom who so Michael Cera's dad was killed for being like a part of the counterculture, and the main character in the Long Walk's dad was killed for being a part of the counterculture.
Yep.
And you have two perspectives. You just have the mom in the Long Walk where she's like sad, but she's like still relatively normal, and then you have Michael Cera's mom in this where she's batshit fucking insane, and she's like, "Kill him! Kill the devil! Run!" I'm like, "What the?"
It was just like so crazy because he had all these like traps and everything planned, and he's like, "Oh, so my dad built this bunker you can lay out there for days on end." But then he goes to try and find the bunker, and it's like, "Oh, well, they actually got rid of the bunker. It's whole like this. They were gonna make a housing community out of it, and then they stopped."
Yeah, yeah, which I didn't get that at first. I'm glad you understood that. I actually had to look that up because I was like, "The fuck happened?"
It's that's one of those things that's just not really greatly explained, which is weird in a movie where they're hitting you over the head with every little detail.
So that's where okay. So I know we talk all the time on this podcast about like, okay, yeah, like show don't tell, but there were certain like weird things in this movie where it was like, um, tell me. Like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't need to know like what kind of we I mean, we know Ben Richards is some fucking badass who can do this crazy shit. I don't need to know his whole backstory with Molly and whatever. I mean, that's fine. But like the fact I had to look up after the fact of like whatever happened to the bunk like I mean, I assumed it was something like that or I forgot about
yeah,
I
they
mean,
just did a quick sequence where he's like holding up the directions to the bunker, and then he pulls it down, and it's like this housing community. So like, I get it, but then they have this whole thing where they're explaining they're called like bloodhounds or something, right? That it's this like
Mhm.
on every streetlight in America, they have these things that they open up, and they're like almost like little fans, and they can sense your
Yeah.
DNA as long as you're above ground or
Um
something. Which then that's the whole reason he's trying to go to the bunkers to hide out underground. It can't sense him. The bunker's not there, so then he's just hiding out above ground in what like the foundation of a house, all open.
mhm.
And then they never reference these like bloodhounds or whatever again. They never make use of any of it. It was yet another
No.
example of being like, I'm going to introduce this concept that breaks the whole movie and then never talk about it again. And then they have yet another dream sequence where he's like imagining the house is fully built in front of him and his wife and his kid are there and they're so happy. And then he's sitting there playing with them. And then in between cuts of the dream sequence, there's hunters showing up to the house where it's like empty and like not complete. And you're like, oh, they're totally going to find Ben Richards here. And they keep doing these cuts. And then all of a sudden, the hunters pull back a curtain and he wrote in cement, "You mail it in." And it was like the recording that he took of that day.
Yeah, oh my god, when the guy who saves him in Boston was like, "Here's what you gotta do, man. You gotta like pre-record all your fucking tapes," and then he like never pre-recorded the
Yeah.
tapes. And at a certain point, I'm like, I'm like, okay, I know you're not showing us him recording the tapes, like sending the tapes in anymore, but like you also made like a very big point about I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times of this movie being like, well, if he doesn't send the tapes, he's fucked. But
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
why would the hunters have an incentive to mail the tape in for him? They don't.
well, unless Dan Killian tells them to, which I mean,
Yeah,
they listen to everything Daddy Dan
which
says.
they do. There's that great sequence though of the last remaining hunter when he's like, Ben Rich is like, "Take your mask off," and he's like, "No," and then you hear in the earpiece Dan Killian's like, "Take your mask off." He's like, "Yep," and he just takes it off. Like that, I thought was actually pretty good. Of he's like, he's a dog and a servant to Dan Killian. That's his whole thing.
Well, what's interesting too is that they talk about, oh, there's only one guy who ever made it to day 29, and it turns out that that hunter McCone was the guy. Which, by the way, I was trying to figure out where I recognized him from. He played Ronan the Accuser in Guardians
What?
and Captain Marvel, but he also was the Elven King in The Hobbit. That's what I actually recognized him from.
So we got
Yeah,
two Lord of
very
the Rings references in this podcast, but yet no references to The Sopranos.
well. Sometimes we got to switch it up, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I just like I thought that Hunter was an interesting character, but they have this whole sequence at the end of the movie. Ben Richards is talking about. He's like, I've got this like super massive explosive. Nobody come near me. I want a jet. I want all this stuff. So he finally gets on board and gets on the jet, and they find out that he's lying about the explosive. Like, we knew the second he got on this jet. Like, there's nothing. So Dan Killian is like, I can make you an offer, but I can make you hunter number 6. You know, you've gone this far. The whole thing we talked about before, like hunter number 6. He's like, I do have to show you something really gut wrenching for me, though. Your family that we always try and protect. The last one of the last remaining hunters went in and killed your family. And
Mm-hmm.
Ben Richards gets so mad. He starts like bashing the computer and he's like, I can't believe they killed my family. But I immediately said to you, I was like, he's seen them do weird editing tricks and all this stuff, and he's falling for
Why
it
are you gonna
again.
believe
Like
this?
you're
Yeah.
falling for a dude that's lied to you this entire movie, this entire way. You know he's a liar.
Mm-hmm.
There's been points made of Ben Richards being like, I can't trust you. You're a liar. But then at this point in this juncture, he trusts him for this reason, which ended up being, some more bullshit editing tricks, which then leads into the end of the movie, which I hated the ending of this movie. Like,
Oh, the last
the
like
last act is just bad.
yeah, especially the last 30 minutes. I mean, it starts going off the rails, but it's like at a certain point they make you they do a fake out. And I mean, we haven't even talked about how he loops the girl Amelia in, which Amelia Jones, I thought she did a great job for the little bit she was in it. She was in I just watched her in Task on HBO. Highly recommend. I'm still gonna bitch at you to watch it. Um,
I know I'm super
she's been in
behind
a
on
lot
that.
of she's been in a lot of stuff. But they he at a certain point after um leaving what was supposed to be the bunker, hijacks a car and like kidnaps this girl, and then this girl basically becomes his leverage along with the fake bomb. And so basically during this whole kill the hunters thing, he tries to do his desperate plea like we mentioned, and he gets Amelia off the plane with the revolutionary pamphlets that Michael Cera gave him, because Michael Cera's like, you need to be like the spark that lights the match of like the revolution, like fucking,
Viva la
like
resistance.
Michael, yeah, like Michael Cera's like fucking Sarah Guevara over here,
He
like
did have a Che Guevara poster in the movie, by the way.
Oh, you're right. He did. Of course. Fucking. Of course he did. Which not for nothing, by the way. When she fell out of the plane, I was like half expecting like Killian to like kill her on the plane.
Dude,
But
I thought her
anyways,
parachute was gonna get sucked into the jet engine. She was gonna die.
dude, yes, me too. Me too. I was like so convinced.
Which honestly kind of
Um
would have been hilarious if they did it that way, where it's like she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna live," and then she just gets sucked in. Like,
yeah.
come on, that actually would have been pretty funny.
No, that would have been fucking funny. I mean, there were some wild deaths in this movie too, especially the best part of the Michael Cera sequence um is when they fucking like kill all the hunters with all the they weren't the hunters, but all the soldiers in like they like he rigged his house to be like Home Alone on crack cocaine, like fucking chemicals lighting guys on fire, electrified floors, like shocking them. What the fuck else? There was like
Pushing
one other
them out
thing.
of the
Anyways,
stairs, things like that.
yes, yeah, the battering ram. Oh my god. But anywho, so he gets her off the plane, and we think, oh, they're gonna crash the plane into the network building and still turn him into the villain, yada yada. And then you think it ends there, but no, the fucking propaganda guy comes back with a propaganda tape and he's like, "Oh my god, the media made you think Ben Richards died." But did he? I'm like,
It
"Oh
was like
my
ultra
god." Like,
conspiracy theory being like his like red circle moment. He's like, "This piece of debris is just the right size to be the ejection pod," and I'm like, "All right, like, sure." Eh,
and also on a show don't tell level, they basically tell us like they try to convince us that Amelia, I mean, we can tell that Amelia's like the brainwashing cuz she's like kind of our inside view of like someone who like fully buys into like the network shit cuz she has money, she's like top 1% or whatever. And like, she starts realizing how shitty the network is and everything. But like we're supposed to believe she becomes some like crazy revolutionary who like finds the plane's black box like, bro, what the fuck? Did you like dig through? That's like imagining someone like fucking dug through like the 9/11 wreckage and found like the jet fuel that melted the steel beams. Like, bitch, what do you mean she went into a fucking plane wreckage and found the black box? But anyways, like basically Ben and her lead this revolution and like the movie ends and he's like, "Oh, I finally get to fuck you up, Dan Killian, in 5, 4, 3, 2." I'm like, dude, like, this movie had jumped the shark, like, 7 different times. At this point, this movie, like, went beyond jumping the shark. It jumped, like, over the planet Earth entirely and just went into a level of, like, "Okay, this is really fucking heavy-handed." And I said to Tom, my first thought after was like, "Okay, so am I supposed to believe this is how it played out exactly? Or am I supposed to believe that the propaganda guys were kind of playing this off because the whole thing is like, okay, the network clearly fakes all this stuff to control their narrative, yada yada. And while the propaganda people, the counter revolution, go against them, at the same time, they are also, from watching those tapes, they're also very guilty of creating like pretty convincing propaganda, deep fake stuff of their own. So like at the end of the day, it's like, okay, they're kind of like the lesser of two evils, but like both these guys are like both of these parties are basically changing the narrative to fit their own agendas, which I will say, if somehow I meet Edgar Wright and I like shake his hand and like be like, "What's up, dude? Like Scott Pilgrim was sick," and I was like, "Hey, so like, was this the point of the movie?" I feel inclined to think that it was probably intentional to be like, "Well, both these sides. This is the world we live in nowadays." But like, oh god, it just any goodwill that this movie had gotten for me, and not for the record, I enjoyed this movie from an entertainment standpoint, but the minute I start thinking it from a critical standpoint, my brain, the squirrel in my brain starts punching me, being like, "Fuck you! Don't think about this movie." Like,
This is very much a
uh,
movie made for the TikTok
ugh,
generation, it feels like. You
uh-huh,
know, it's like constantly changing things. Don't think, don't think, don't think. Focus here. Shiny keys, distractions, that kind of thing.
mhm,
But like the thing that really the whole movie, like you're right, from an entertainment standpoint, sure, if I shut my mind off and I don't have to think, yeah, it's a fine movie. But like it's not enough that I would recommend it to people, I think.
no,
Especially because
agreed.
that ending, after they have the whole thing of like the special guy who's been reviewing all the tapes, the propaganda dude, they have this
Mhm.
whole thing where Ben Richards' wife is buying groceries. She's alive. Who would have thought that?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, they faked her
Wow,
death?
we
Wow,
really bought into
crazy.
that. But like
Nine.
they have her and the healthy daughter buying groceries in the fancy part of town, right? And then the cashier is like, "Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Richards, your groceries are paid for." And she goes, "That's not my name." Like clearly she had to change her name. And
Yeah.
then the cashier's like, "No, that dude out there paid for you." And she looks, and there's a man who looks suspiciously like Glenn Powell standing there. And then, in
Woo!
case you didn't understand it was him, they get closer and she starts crying. And in case you still couldn't understand it was him,
Oh my
they
god.
kiss and they still don't show you his face because you might not know it's still him. And then
No.
they're like, "Oh, we're still doing the Running Man," but there's a clear revolution against it. So the audience rises up. They start throwing Molotov cocktails at people. I don't know how the audience
I
got
know.
in with that.
Yeah, I know. Bobby T's like, "Fuck
Yeah,
this
he's like,
shit.
"It's in
I'm
my
out."
contract that you can fuck off."
Yeah, no. Yeah, in line 65, written in small text, there's a lot provision that says "fuck you." Like, oh my god, no. I loved him though. He hammed it up, and I will say that didn't come out of nowhere because he had even made a comment to Glenn Powell's character at one point that like, yeah, dude, like I don't buy into this shit. This is just the world I
Yeah.
live in. Like, you
But
know.
even then, as the audience is overtaking the Running Man, you see a
Mhm.
figure walking up closer and closer who looks like Glenn Powell, only to take his hoodie off, and it's Glenn Powell. And you're like, yes, we know. We know it's you. We knew it was going to be you. Like, I don't know if Edgar Wright thought he was like, guys, this is going to be such a plot twist. The audience will never see it coming. Like, I don't know. To me, I just couldn't really get behind the movie as a whole. It's like if someone's like, "Hey, I just need a movie that I can watch in the background, and I can have in the background, and I don't have to focus. I can kind of tune in and out and still understand what's going on." Again, TikTok generation. Yes, it's for people with short attention spans. Yes, it's for people who
Mhm.
don't want to focus on their movie, who can be on their phone and occasionally look up and be like, "Yeah, I didn't miss anything." But,
Yeah.
going back to kind of this isn't like a Lord of the Rings or a Hobbit where if you look away and you're on your phone for like 10 minutes, you're going to miss key information. You're going to miss key plot points. Like there's themes and subtleties in movies like that that you're
Mhm.
not getting with this. There isn't that kind of moment of what can men do against such reckless hate. Like there isn't anything as deep and thought provoking as that. This is just like literally consume product and don't ask questions.
Mhm. I mean, it was fun. I did have a lot of fun with this movie. I mean, there was also some fun cameos. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who played the Ben Richards in the original in the 1987 one. Which one thing I will say, my little brother, I was talking to him yesterday. Apparently, the 1987 one, kind of butchers the original idea. I guess this movie was very faithful to the book. I guess in the 1987 one, I've never seen it, but I guess instead of 30 days, the whole thing takes place in 3 hours, and there's like a lot of other
Yeah, there's
crazy
like a
shit
dude with
with like,
chainsaws for hands.
yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened with that, but what do you call it? Arnold Schwarzenegger is the face of the $100
Which is he
bill.
a
They
president
show,
in this universe then? Did he win the Running Man
I
and
don't
become
know.
president?
Wait, shit. Oh my God, you're right. Yo, that's crazy. But also, you got Angel Batista was Glenn Powell's boss at one point too in the movie. They show him at the beginning. Oh God, I don't know. It's a fun movie. I just can't. I got to agree with you. I just can't, in good conscience, fully recommend it. I guess my disclaimer is, if you want to have a blast, like watching some like crazy action and like by all means, but know that out of the 133-minute running time, that the last half hour will like literally make you want to like grab the bleach and pour it down your eye sockets, because
I mean,
yeah, that shit pissed me
that's
off.
one thing that I'm glad you brought up the original one. The original one isn't very popular and wasn't really a success in any way.
No.
So why are we remaking a movie that wasn't good in the first place to also make this not good? Like
So I guess the book has always been popular, which I mean, if you take that concept of The Long Walk and the book, I mean, so many different
Yeah.
movies have been based on it. But I guess I looked into kind of the history of it, and I guess Edgar Wright has been saying for the last 8 years that like this is like a dream project for him, that like he really wanted to make this movie, yada yada. I mean, he and Glenn Powell even got like blessing from like Stephen King and
It's
Arnold Schwarzenegger apparently. I mean, I don't think this is a bad movie in this like in the same way that like Jurassic Park and like fucking some of these other ones we've
War
watched,
of the
like Hubie
Worlds.
Halloween. Yeah, nowhere near that. It's just a pretty mid movie across the board. But it's a mid movie, and but then if you take the ending, it becomes kind of bad.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
it's like it's mid, and then the ending kind of ruins the whole thing. Like it's one of those movies that if someone's like, "Hey, it's in theaters, should I go watch it?" I'd be like, wait till it's on streaming. Like
Yeah.
you'll see it on HBO Max, and you're already paying for the subscription, so who cares?
Mhm.
And then you can be like, it was okay, but like it's nothing that I could wholeheartedly recommend. But now I don't know why Hollywood is really into the whole Stephen King movement now, where we have the It prequel TV show on HBO. We have two Stephen King movies, at the same time. I don't know what's going on.
Well, so I think what happened is that there was such a history of like almost all of the Stephen King like media adaptations with a few exceptions obviously like Shawshank, like
Yeah,
Shining, um the 2006 Mist, what
Pet
else?
Cemetery.
Yeah, like there's a few that but because once the new It movies turned out to be gas, I think that opened a whole window for like people to be like, "Well, we can make good Stephen King movies. We got a lot of material to work with. Let's get to it." Which like, hey, don't get me wrong. Long Walk, fucking
Yeah,
fantastic. Um I mean, the new It movies, fantastic. I mean, even some of the other recent adaptations. I mean, I gotta say, if we ever, I know we tackle mostly movies on this show, but I think at some point we should definitely, for like mini series or like other stuff. Hopefully, we'll be able to like cover some long format stuff because I think we have an interesting opportunity with that It prequel series for us to kind of cover something like that. So for our devoted listeners, let us know if you'd be interested in something like that. Also, shout outs to the Green Mile. I can't forget that. That and Shawshank are probably the best Stephen King adaptations ever. But yeah, dude, I mean, once again, I don't know what the obsession is right now with that because the minute people start thinking like, "Oh, he's got so many blah blah blah," like just remember how bad the Dark Tower movie was. Like they're oh god, I don't know. Hey, and also remember that a lot of the books Stephen King wrote between the 70s and 90s, he was very much high on cocaine writing them too. So, it's not including this movie. So,
speaking of devout listeners too, shout out to Cam. Shout out to our boy Cam.
yeah, Cam is probably listening to this right now at this very second. Probably doesn't miss a single millisecond of the podcast. We know he doesn't. So shout out to him. Shout out to anyone else. And we'll always take suggestions as
Yeah,
well.
we're always open to suggestions. Anything we've seen all kinds of movies, so it doesn't really matter what it is, good, bad, science fiction, whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll watch it.
Yeah.
Except I won't
So
watch the new Wicked. No chance. You're not getting me to do that.
yeah, no, we're not watching that for the pod. So I think we'll leave it at that for this one. I think we had a fun time watching it, but I don't think in good conscience either of us can really recommend it. But nowhere near the worst movie we've seen for the pod. So
Well, that'll do it for this one. So we'll catch you all next time.